Hello, everyone. Wow, that's pretty grainy. Let's see if I put this light on it, if it brightens up a little bit more. Wow. Well, I guess it's going to fight a little bit until I get my arm in there. We're going to go ahead and do a great little painting today. Holy smokes. I've never done this before. I did a painting live on Reddit yesterday. I figured let's try this today. I am Ted. I'm a certified instructor, and if you're one of the 3 people that are watching this, you probably got alerted. If you're a subscriber, I appreciate my subscribers. You're a loyal bunch. So let's go ahead and just scrub some of this on. That doesn't take too long. Really work it in there. And there we go. Kind of got lost in my own thoughts there for a moment. So sorry. We'll take a napkin here and just lightly take off the excess liquid clear. Now I painted this canvas black myself, but even if you buy one already blackened, when you brush off the excess thinner, you might get a little gesso on your hand, on the napkin. Hopefully not on your hand. That's okay. It's okay. Nothing's going to hurt it. Boy, that is glare now, isn't it? That's all right. We're just having fun. And let's see, I've got all my invisible paints laid out here. So we should be good to go. But just in case, let me just mix up a purple color first. I did this yesterday, more of a summer scene. I created this nighttime thing with purple. So I thought, let's try it in winter where it really stands out. All right, now I made the paints visible again. Let's take a hunk of the crimson, much smaller amount of blue, and I just mix them together. Scrape it up, pull it out flat. You do that a few times, you start to get the purple color showing. I can see just here a little bit on my palette the general shade of purple. You can make it a little to the red side, like this is. You can make it a little to the blue side or anywhere in between. I'm going to add just a touch more of the phthalo blue. You got to really spread it out a couple of times in order to get that paint to start to mix in. But you're going to have some various shades. And if you sit here for an hour or two, I'm exaggerating, you can get it very homogeneous, very, very much just one solid color. But if you have some little streaks of red and blue in there, it's not the end of the world. Pull some of it out flat like that. And just wiping the knife. Got my 2-inch brush here. What I'm trying to do is just pick up a little bit of the color, not very much. There you go. The brush is loaded. I just come across here and I do basically a maybe 2.5-inch wide swap here, and now that's got the purple color on it. I leave it be. I come over here, I get a little bit more color. Try to keep about the same amount of paint in your brush. And then I do another 2.5-inch, just making these long strokes here. The more I work it, I'll actually start taking color back off. So I move on before it starts to get, 1/8 of an inch thick. All we're looking for is a thin glaze of color across the canvas. I got room. Oh, you can actually see it pretty well on this playback, thanks to the over glare get to see. I'm going to actually use that as my guide here. A little bit more right down here at the bottom. Gotta have something down here. I think we're going to have some water. Brush it across. Something like that. There we go. Now, basically, wherever I touch, I'm going to see some purple on my finger. Maybe some spots a little more than others, but it's basically the same, and that's good enough. Okay, clean my fingers up here before I get purple forehead dots. I just now, after 5 minutes, got an alert on my phone. You are now going live. Well, thank you. All right, cleaning the excess paint out of my brush just with a napkin here. We might use this one a little bit later. But I'm actually going to slide over here and grab a fresh, clean brush. So I don't have to worry about doing a full brush clean. I was telling a student recently who was asking some advice on what brushes to get. I said to him, and rather than get one of every brush when you're brand new, I get the temptation, but I'd rather have at least two of the 2-inch, 1-inch, all the brushes I'm using today. You don't need 2 knives, but having a large one and a small one is definitely advised. But if you get a couple of fan brushes, couple of 1s, couple 2s, then you don't have to worry about constantly cleaning your brush when you want to change to radically different colors like lights and darks. So, case in point, if I need some dark color later on, I can clean this, that's fine, or use it. I'm just going to use this brush here. What I'm trying to do is just get a little bit of paint, let me find my angle there, on the tips of the brush. So, oh, there it is. So what I'm doing is I just tilt my brush a little bit forward as I tap into the color. Very small amount. We can always add more. I'm actually going to tap some of that away. Very small amount. So I come up to the canvas and using that top corner of the brush, I just tap and move. I just want to make a basic shape here. Not blending or doing anything else, but just tapping and making a basic cloud shape. And I'm kind of going in a sort of a little U pattern here. It doesn't really matter. The more you tap, the softer it gets. So once I get the basic idea of where the cloud's going to sit, I can make it a little brighter by tapping in just to a touch more paint and tapping. And then I continue tapping, let that paint come out of your brush. Now I'm tapping that dark purple, it's mixing with the cloud, and you see it just gets progressively darker. Okay, I come in with just a slightly brighter color, and I put it a little lower, right where this is faded and dark. And I put another shape out there. Make a shape. You can take the paint off by wrapping it on your easel or into a napkin, or even just use the other side and then tap the bottom down, softening, making it as dark as you want before going on to the next layer. Okay. We're going to do a whole blending process. I know it looks awfully speckled up there. That's okay. We're not worried about that too much right now. Ooh, there's a bright one. Just trying to get the basic cloud shapes on there. This one here catches the light a little bit. And tap. Just making a shape. Bob does this thing in the episode that was my inspiration yesterday. I tapped into just a little bit of the phthalo blue. And I can create a little phthalo blue tinge in here. Very, very, very small amount. See if it comes off. If you need to, you add just a touch more. There it goes. Having a touch of white really, really brings it out as well. Something like that. I'm going to take off that excess blue just by hitting it. Give it a little stir into a clean napkin. Most of it will come out. Come back here with my mostly clean white. It picks up a little of that purple as we go here. Anytime you want it brighter, just go a little higher up in your runway. Tap it. And now I'm going to add, another shade. Just let it dance around there. And then soften it. You can go over it a couple of times and it'll keep getting softer and softer. Okay, get something like that. Now, clean that brush again. It's still got a little bit of paint in there. And very, very, very gently, I'm just making these simple little crisscross strokes. You can make this whole thing just disappear if you go over it a few times. So be very careful or it'll all go away. Now on the playback, boy, it'll really crank up the brightness. When I'm looking at it here, a lot of it looks quite a bit duller. Still got a touch of that blue. Maybe bring it down. Anything we don't like, we'll make it go away. So I kind of do a little bit more in the sky. And we just cover up the rest as we're building the scene. Better to have a little too much clouds than not enough. And then soften it. Just as a reminder here, going back is possible, but you have to be careful not to blend things over that layer that you put on there. So you got to be very gentle and not drop your brush on the floor. And we can brighten up certain areas if it needs to. You just have to be careful about hitting that next layer. Very light. I'm just sort of waving some air at it. There we go. Something like that. Tell ya, I'll listen to myself here. Make it a little bit lower. Just so I can cover it up. See that? Super quick. Like this little dark area in here. Drop something in there. Happens in an instant. All right, let us move on to one of my new favorites to use lately. Is this oval brush. It makes some very lush looking foliage. Foliage. It's one of those three. And let's see here. I'm going to take a little bit of midnight black. Get some color out there. And what the heck, a little bit of Prussian blue. that was too much. So I'm going to take that purple color that I created. Okay. Add a little bit of Prussian blue to it. I'll tell you what, the rest of my crimson, touch of phthalo, a little chunk of the Prussian, and then a nice hunk of black. Let's mix all that together. So it's basically the colors that make purple, and then a little bit more blue and a nice hunk of black. That should darken everything down. And we can play around with it and lighten things up if we want to. But this is going to be our base color for the rest of the painting. Super dark purple. It's dark enough so it covers this dark of the sky. It's a darker, deeper shade so that it stands out. And then we put highlights on it to make the shadows stand out. Lights against darks, darks against lights. That's one of the goals we go for here. And I literally used the last napkin sitting next to me here. It's okay. Got a couple more over here. Sorry about that, folks. Napkins. That should get me going through this painting at least. All right, so the goal here today is let's make some trees. I'm going to take, first off, let's try to make some background trees. I'm going to take just a little bit of white and some of this dark color. Tap it in. Let's see what color we get. Oh, that's not so bad. It's a little darker than the sky. The lighter it is, the farther away it should look. So, just going to put some basic shapes, and they're kind of off in the distance here. We don't really see a lot of detail. Something like that. There we go. Now, I think here, let me open up my can of the liquid white. We can give just the barest hint of highlight to those, or leave it be. We don't have to mess with it at all if we don't want to. But if I just take a little bit of a thinning agent, which is our liquid white here, give a slightly thinner mix right there on the brush. Let's see. We can pick out a couple of details here and there. A little glare on my canvas here. It's a little tough to see. There we go. Just here and there. A couple of spots. All right. So, take my knife. Let's get rid of that. And we'll get rid of a little bit of white we created over there. And brush out this extra stuff in my oval brush. That's good enough. Now when I start coming back here, this dark color will eat up the lighter stuff. Really not change the color. So I'm going to take this and get some more color on the brush if it doesn't stick very easily. Get a little bit more color on and tap it. A little bit of authority here. We're just making a basic shape here in the sky. Covering up as much of that previous layer as you want. If we only see a little bit of it peeking through, totally fine. And down here, we'll make these small so we can still see, not so tall, so we can still see some of that background stuff. we're jumping a little bit closer into the foreground here. You make some taller ones, some shorter ones. Little things there. Looks like we gotta, I'm gonna go with it. It's kind of coming down a little bit rather than be straight across. I like that. Oh, I think we're gonna have a big tree. Big hangy down limbs here, kind of come out. Let these just be kind of shaggy. This one here, not so much. Almost like it's covered in kudzu or something. Some invasive leaf thing. All right, so this is super simple. This is fun. All right, just to have a little bit more fun, tap just a little bit of white into that 2-inch brush. Let's just give our little sense of our land here. The lay of our land, or stream, pond. Just coming by here. Pulling straight down. That's the goal here. Get some color on and start pulling it down. You get some variations of bright and dark. That's good. You see, this is almost like little steps. Now we get the sense of how our land flows. Move some of that paint. Very lightly go back and forth, once or twice, maybe thrice. And now we've got some river kind of flowing here. All right, before we do any more, we got to highlight all these cool little things. We can do bushes. We need to put in maybe an evergreen or two. What do you think? Add a little bit of that purple left. Touch of blue, touch the rest of the black. Just need a little bit more volume here. See if I can't sneak in a evergreen or two. And again, I could put the evergreen here in the foreground. Think about that. All right, I thought about it, and I'm going to put them in the back. I'm going to take my fan brush, load up some color. Lots of color in that brush. Smoothed out. And let's see here. Just tap in a basic line where the center of the tree will be. And I use the corner of the brush to tap down, and that's going to create the basic shape of the evergreen. Let's do another little guy right next to him. Little basic idea here of an evergreen. Teasing its presence over here. Little taller. There it is. And just with the corner of the brush, tick, 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 tick. I don't know what that was, but sometimes making some silly noises helps you. I'm not saying it helps you paint. It just helps your attitude. Something like that. That's kind of funky. It's all right. That's just the dark parts. We'll put some highlights on it. Well, let's go ahead and do those first. Since they're a little further away, we should do those first. That way, if there's anything we don't like, we can cover it up. So, I take out most of the paint out of my brush. Give it a good stir. And I'm going to use a little bit of the liquid white and titanium white, and then just a touch of the phthalo blue, just to give it a slightly darker tone here. It's at night, so it shouldn't necessarily be stark white. So I come up here, light touch, as I go down the tree. Drop a couple in here and there. Something like that. Oh, we got one more. Touch, 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 etc., etc. That's how we highlight an evergreen. Winter at night. All right, let's take that clean and dry oval brush. Notice how I have more than one. And let's create some highlights on these. I think I'm going to move a little bit of this white right down there. And maybe just need a touch more of the crimson here. Maybe we can highlight with some lavender tones rather than blue. It's up to you how you want to do that. What color you want the highlights to be. You can make them pink if you want. A little bit of crimson, a little bit of blue. Mixing them together to get a basic purple color. Okay, it's definitely not thin enough to use yet. A thin paint sticks to a thick paint. So let's come in and now we lighten it up and thin it with the liquid white. And as I'm pushing, it's getting the paint right on the tips of the bristles. Something like that. So this one over here, I'm going to come up here and just find a couple of spots. Notice how I'm leaving some holes here. I'm not just covering the whole tree up. Something like that. As I move to the back a little bit, I'm just going to change the color ever so much. Create an idea of some shadowy stuff back here. It's a little bit darker. Maybe it's just a different tree altogether. We can pick out these spots here. As we go down, we drop down, we create layers. Not just one solid bush if you don't want it. If you want to create the idea that it's very lush here, I put a little bit out there. Then we drop down a little bit, leaving a little bit of dark. And that creates a separation. Drop it in there. Leave a little bit of dark. Creates the effect for you. So, a little bit of white, a little bit of blue, touch of the crimson. And you can vary it up till you find the color that suits you. I'm going to go with a little bit to the red side here, just slightly, just to change the flavor up. A little bit of the liquid white will lighten it. So you can have a thin paint and have it still be dark. It just has to have a higher concentration of your pigments. Mix it in. Find the shade. It's going to be a little darker. Now you could use a drop of the liquid clear. That will thin things without changing the brightness. Just lightly touching, making some basic shapes here. Try not to just hit things at random. I'm creating these clumps and putting those randomly, but not just hitting it everywhere. Think about the form and shape here. There we go. Now with the tree kind of hanging out here, maybe they can be a little bit brighter out on the very edge. So I can drop in a little brighter highlight here and there. Oh, let's see here. As I come down, there's some bright bits, some not so bright bits. I'm going to come over here to this blue color, drop in something just to change the look. And we got this other tree coming in from the side, and it's a slightly different color, and it covers up some of that one and adds a little bit of depth. We got a little tree back here. Very, very, very little highlight on that one. Make it a little bolder on the one in front, and that'll push it back. All these little things, leave in the dark. We don't know what's going on there. The dark helps you. It helps you. Like movies with a lot of CGI, make them at night so the dark hides hides any issues. All right. Got some bushes in there. I think we're going to need a little bit of land. How do we want to do this? Let's take a little bit of the Van Dyke brown then. Need to see some dirt. Well, I'll tell you what, I shouldn't even put that brown out there. This is a winter painting. We need to see some snow. We need to see the snow. I will get a fan brush, titanium white. A little color sneaks in there. Not gonna hurt anything. Let's create, which way should we make this snow? Pull it this way here to get an effect. I think it needs to pull this way. Just getting some stuff started here. Grabbing the color, pulling sort of down, and I can create the idea of the land here. Then we'll smooth it later. All I'm doing is trying to shape where I think the land is going to flow. Well, that just changed up on me. Doing something completely different than I thought I was just a minute ago. That's what's happening when you paint. Something like that. one of the cool things about putting this snow on is it doesn't have to be white, especially in these night paintings. You know, I added some more snow to my brush, some white. What I'm going to do now is no paint is in my brush, and I'm just going to barely go over, just trying to take out some of these little streaks in the snow. I'm not sure if you can see them in the playback, but there's some furrows almost. So I can calm those down if I take it very lightly, very lightly. The idea is we don't want to just blend this away to nothing. We want some of these little dark, shadowy things to remain. And I varied up these little lumps and bumps just to make it look a little more natural, not too drawn on. There we go. Now we can take our knife. We can use the small or the large. It doesn't really matter. A little bit of your light color, white. If it has some mixture in it, that's fine. I take a little bit of liquid white just to loosen it up a little bit. We could do it with straight titanium white, the thickest paint we got. We could do this with the liquid white, the thinnest paint we got. Or we mix them together like half and half, and it works just as well. It's however you like to do it. I find that a mixture of titanium and liquid worked for me. It definitely slides and moves around, but it has a slight stiffness to it that helps keep the paint where I want it to be. If you like it loosey-goosey, you can use the straight liquid white. What I'm doing here is I'm just touching, allowing the knife to bend a little so that paint comes off the edge in a little bead. Try to move the brush basically horizontal. I don't want to curve it this way. I can move it up and down. Try to keep it basically horizontal. And I can, if I need to move it a little bit of a distance, I kind of give it like a lightning bolt, like a zigzag. There we go. Sometimes you can do 2 layers like that. I did it just to demonstrate, but it actually looks nice. So you can add a little bit more here and there, but there is a limit. If you keep going and it just starts getting too thick and sloppy, it kind of loses the effect. So when I'm chopping or slicing side to side here, like I pick up a little bit of the base of the snow and I'm just rubbing it, creating a softness, little eddy here and there. That's looping back there. Once you get that on there, you didn't overdo it. A very thin amount here, and I can create some little lines or ripples. You want to indicate movement. You can just put this in different spots, slightly different configurations. Leave it like that. Or with a mostly clean brush, you can very lightly brush over and soften it, stretch it out. Just enough to give it a little sense of some movement here. It's not super still. Boy, that was super quick, wasn't it? I skipped a few steps, and we can always add different layers of detail. You can put trees here in front and push everything else back and do all sorts of cool effects like that. Well, hopefully you've watched a little bit of this. Less than, well, not quite Bob speed, but 39 minutes and some seconds. So thank you all. I hope to be here again sometime. Take care.